Hi guys, hi. Today we're doing a much anticipated house review of Histoires de Parfums, French niche house that was established in 2000, right at the millennium cusp, by Gerard Guichon. And as I've been preparing for this review, and many of you know, I've been an arduous fan of the brand despite their resilient silence, radio silence, not only toward me but toward pretty much all of the internet. I decided that I will actually proceed and tell you what I know. You would think that for a brand that has so much YouTube coverage and like blogging coverage, that Histoires de Parfums, the internet would be swelling with interviews from Histoires de Parfums creator Gerard Guichon or representatives, and yet they have maybe like a dozen short promotional videos on their own YouTube channel, and when it comes to the interviews, it's just like random 2 5-minute interviews about not necessarily related subjects, a somewhat clumsily translated from French to English about us in a few articles, and that's it. I don't know if it's a statement or an omission or some kind of lack of awareness. However, this is probably my biggest criticism that I have of the brand, that they really gotta like start talking to their audience. But that said, I have been a really devoted supporter of their creation. I amassed a big library of their perfumes, and we're gonna talk about them one by one and kind of make a few rankings and a few overall recommendations by the end of this video. Overall, I would say I tend to like nearly half, if not like 70% of everything that I try by them, with roughly 20 to 30% things that are just and only one perfume. Well, actually not true. A few perfumes, but very specific ones. Well, I'll save it for later. Were actually disappointments. So it's a pretty high hit rate for me. That said, my introduction to the whole house was first and foremost the visuals. As soon as I saw their book type packaging and their Art Deco overall packaging, that is also pretty conscious, and it's not like a bunch of plastic. It's just fairly thin piece of paper or cardboard. And I do appreciate that. It's both stylish, eco-friendly, and it's not overly... It's conceptually rich, but overall not too busy. It's like way too easy nowadays in the niche brand categories to go either completely bare, where you kind of have absolutely no aesthetic identity whatsoever, or toward nouveau riche and like nouveau baroque, where it's gold upon velvet, upon silks, upon rich red, black, and everything at once. So probably one of the best packaged niche brands on the market, I dare say. Very recognizable, stylish, everything is just, they did a great job straight from the beginning, which I guess I have to mention Serge Lutens here, who keeps experimenting with the packaging. At this point, the guys just splurge, get yourself a good creative director, because like it's too many changes to their packaging, and each of them is just not quite there, it seems. And I think that's why they keep experimenting with rebottling, repackaging, and changing the fonts. Anyway, Histoires de Parfums kind of had it from the beginning, and they haven't changed in the 24 years they've been around. At this point, it's quite a legacy. My first perfume by them was a blind buy, pretty much like all of them. I've never even came across a place that I could test them. Maybe in the recent years, but actually nothing comes to mind. So I kind of had to bite the bullet and like spend the money. And the first one that I got was 1828. I was mildly curious about fougères. I haven't really tried many of them, and I was kind of sick and tired of fruity, rosy florals, which is what usually gets shoved down your throat if you happen to be a woman. So the 1828, which is devoted to Jules Verne, was quite an intriguing proposition. So according to their own fairy tale, right, the myth that comes with the bottle, because every bottle, every creation is very conceptual. It's devoted to a character, to a phenomenon, or to a literature piece or creation. So this is supposed to represent kind of the feeling and the vibes that you get from these fantastical journeys described in Jules Verne's books. And it's supposed to be kind of oceanic without being watery or oceanic per se. So it's very breathable. I would say bergamot is somewhat clean, breathy, and through that it's usually bergamot, minty, anise kind of herbs that is just kind of runs through the space and like freshens, opens up your lungs. Yet it's not too spicy, it's not bitter, and it's not too floral, and it's not heavy in terms of the sort of heavy greens. None of that is there. It's also not too lavendery, which fougères kind of guilty as charged. That's kind of in the definition of that genre of perfumery. So we have here eucalyptus, mandarin, Italian citron, so I guess it's lemon or some kind of citrus, pamplemousse. And in the notes of the heart, things that you're supposed to experience later: Nuit du Muscat, Poivre Noir, then cedar, patchouli. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Oh, I think it's pine, vetiver, and incense. I do not detect incense here whatsoever. That is new to me. Maybe it's there somewhere. But to me, it's not that piney, it's not that bergamoty as Serge Lutens can do in their waters, or as Bergamoto by Laboratorio Olfativo. It's not truly, it's neither piney nor bergamoty. To me, it's just very fresh, spicy. Does it seem like an Old Spice or those like usual aftershaves? Yes and no. It really lacks any kind of bitterness or lavender. And that makes it very unusual. It's long-lasting, it has a lot of projection. It's truly unisex in my view. I love wearing it when I just need to like open up my lungs, kind of like level up my ribcage. So yeah, that was my first one, and I knew that was a hit. It was quite unusual. I liked it, even though it was not my cup of tea at the time. That was like at my early stages of really discovering things outside of the norm. And then I just kind of went through the whole thing. Maybe let's go here now. 1725, Casanova. I thought, what would Casanova smell like? A historical figure. Obviously, we're talking about hedonistic pleasures. You would think it would be the most ridiculous gourmand you can imagine, and yet, no. It is the furthest of what I could imagine would be the representation of the most famous lover. It is kind of almost like skin sebum, is this quiet, somewhat breathy, softly minty, spicy perfume. And here we definitely have lavender. Lavender to me often, when they say lavender, God knows what they really mean chemical composition wise. It's just, all of this is just marketing. It's just an illusion, like what it could remind you of. To me, half time when they say lavender, I feel mint, and vice versa. Bergamot, citron, pamplemousse, Heraclea. Okay, I'm not sure what that is in English. Lavender, vanille, at the base, but it's so hidden. The vanille here is so hidden. I cannot really full-heartedly call this a gourmand. I cannot call it a sweet perfume. It is very soft and cuddly. It's not even flirtatious. It's just so relaxed. It's like taking a nap after the feast with Casanova. It's an incredibly relaxed, pillowy scent, and I also can pull it in either gender or whatever identification with feminine or masculine here, because it's just a pillowy scent. Like, lavender to me is a super universal agent when it comes to a feeling of kind of soothing. It's in the process of calming down, not being calmed down, but in the process of, kind of landing your psyche into a soft field of lavender. It's charming, it's quiet, it sits close to the skin, so to me it's more of a nude type of perfume. But when it comes to nudes, I do personally prefer cuddlier, more romantic, more maybe pink peppery or tonka beans. I like scents that are a little bit more flirtatious if they're nude. This is so calm, soft and relaxed that it's not that it's forgettable. 1725 is just almost too, it's like a pushover. I kind of imagine Casanova a little bit more as a flamboyant character, but nevertheless it's really well made. You cannot mistake it with anything mainstream or cheap, which is definitely a good sign. So that's money well invested if you like that kind of profile. Well, this is a frequent occurrence on my channel. And you know who that is. That is Marquis de Sade, 1740. This is a gourmand. That was a surprise to me. Like, if we talk about BDSM and kink, I wouldn't expect it to be as richly luscious. I would expect it to have more edge. However, by the accounts of many, it kind of depends on your nose. I feel this more as a spicy, somewhat musky gourmand. Yet a few people wrote to me and said, like, I don't know how you bear it with your sensitive nose, because to me this screams and just it never lowers the volume. I don't get what's so loud about this perfume. It clearly has a lot of brightness and volume. Yes, that's not a quiet perfume, but to me it's way more coriander and these kind of like almost, I wouldn't say baked, but toward the dessert and baked gourmands. So we here have bergamot, davana, patchouli, coriander, cardamom, absolutely, cedar, cistil labdanum. So yeah, some people complain it's too much labdanum. I don't really get that. Bleu, cuir, leather, vanille, immortel. Leather, I would say minimally. Maybe like labdanum, sweet. I would say it's amber. It's very spicy, somewhat leathery amber. But if we're talking about heavy, I would say that Parfumum Roma has a leathery amber. That stuff is heavy. This, to me, it's more flirty than it is dramatic. I love it. Like, when I start wearing Marquis de Sade 1740, it's very hard to stop. It's kind of like I tend to overspray, even though it does not require that at all. Like, it's a very potent perfume. So far, so good. 2 big loves and 1 Casanova. Well, I'm alright. Like, I like it enough. Here is something that I don't quite get. Not that I dislike it, I just don't vibe with it as much. This is 1826. The 1826 is dedicated to Eugénie de Montijo, which was the second wife of Napoleon and empress of this, I think it's called Second Empire. So, alright. that woman was mostly, I think, of a Spanish descent, and her politics was very clerical and authoritarian, according to at least written resources, not a history nerd. If you know more, please let us know in the comments below. We would love to know more. So I didn't quite know what to expect. So probably it's more of a historical celebrity in the French circles than in the global community. I'm not as familiar. Nevertheless, it commemorates a French empress who gave Napoleon the heir to the throne. So this is bergamot, mandarin, white florals, violet, cannelle, ginger, patchouli, amber, incense, white woods, white musks, vanille. All sounds actually very cheerful and very feminine. However, I keep struggling positioning what is in the sense that smells to me like old wood, like really, really old wood. You know, when you come to a building that hasn't been renovated forever, but it was built well enough from solid wood for so long that it's still like everything is more or less intact, but just this very typical smell of old, half rotten kind of wood that soaked in so much over the decades, if not a century. And that's what gives me this old room with old wood smell. And I just can't enjoy it. It's interesting. It's in a way aristocratic because it's so unusual. These perfumes definitely have some of that kind of cerebral nature, at least to me. However, I just can't enjoy it. So I am thinking about rehoming this bottle. If anybody interested, let me know. Maybe it's the violets, maybe it's the combination of white musks with light woods and incense, God knows. Maybe it's the type of weaving in that they did of all those notes. Like we can talk until we're, we can compare until we're blue in the face. However, we all know that all these notes written here, it's not like, here is injection of patchouli, here is injection of white woods. That's not how it works. It's a list of aromatic chemical components that are played with what to add in what proportion and in all the good organic chemistry stuff until they get the right profile, and then the marketing team pretty much writes this down. Sure, the perfumer has a lot to say in what they want people to smell allegorically, and yet I don't know, to me this is just not that cheerful. And maybe that's what they meant to express, that she was somewhat archaic in her views and in her influence. I would love to know. As I said before, not much to read, not much to study for me to report to you kind of like the depth of knowledge on Histoires de Parfums. Give this video a like if you want me to reach out to Gerard and actually get him on board to talk to us more about it in person, because at this point I would love to learn more, but I'm sincerely surprised that there is not much out there in the world of internet about the creative process in specific compositions and what they were trying to express beyond like one marketing paragraph. Anyway, moving on. The fragrance that's probably the absolute must-have for me from this brand is 1876 Mata Hari. Enigmatic figure, a woman of rather vibrant, complex, and torturous life. Read up about it, like truly, it's like when art imitates life. That's truly how can one person experience and go through so much? I don't know. And yet we should expect something oriental, something enigmatic, and something mysterious. This to me is hypnotic. because you don't want to like it, but it's like a narcotic allure. You just want more and more of this poison. This is green, bitter, herbaceous shipper with, I don't know how, this is pure magic, where powderiness only comes as an aftertaste. I feel an absurd amount of sagebrush or tarragon, what absinthe is made of. And yet they say it's, again, their favorite kind of DNA of opening. You always will find bergamot, orange or orange oil, some kind of citrusy openings, lychee. And I think that's where hidden sweetness is, because if it was that bitter, like I know some really vicious, angry green shippers, but this has this sweet, powdery aftertaste that is just such a soft landing as after such a harsh and poisonous opening. It becomes so delicious by the contrast of it. At the heart we have rose, iris, oule, which is carnation, cannelle, cummin, and at the base we have santal, also kind of milky sweet probably, vetiver, guaiac, it's the type of wood, white musks, and vanille. I don't know, it's probably the iris plus santal and vanille that really delivers, but the bitterness at the beginning, there must be tarragon or something here. It cannot be all orange and bergamot. I don't know, but this is amazing. I would never have guessed that it has rose in the heart, but I do know that there are so many rose shippers that have that kind of edge. So I guess for some of you who are more into roses, you'll probably hear it here. I wouldn't call this a rose shipper, especially if you compare this with Blouse by Yves Saint Laurent or Rosa Verde by Valentino or any other green roses. So to me, this is an absurd amount of tarragon with semi-sweet, hidden powdery sweetness, like sort of like a suede vanilla at the very, very end. I got myself 2 travels because I couldn't find half a full-size bottle. So I already worked through the first one. This is my second backup, and I love their travels. Again, the packaging is just impeccable. Impeccable packaging. And then I got myself 60 ml. By the way, talking of packaging, so they do have teeny tiny samplers like every brand has now. They have 15 ml. They look like a vaping. They're very stylish. 15 ml travels. Love me some sculptured, well-designed travel sizes. Then they have 60 ml, which is like half books. And they have 120, just twice as big. And if you get more than 2, see, right, you get your library. And if you get more than 2, right, you get a shelf. Me loves some library. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty serious fan of Mata Hari. So if there was only one that I would recommend you to try from this brand, the most unusual one, it would be Mata Hari 1876. That said, the audience darling, the fragrance that probably I would dare say their bestseller is Hemingway, 1899. And Hemingway is a rather cozy fellow in the imagination of Histoires de Parfums, because again, opening. Just notice the similarities: bergamot, poivre noir, white pepper, Genever bay, is it bay leaf? Bergamot, is it that? Fleurs, some kind of, fleur d'orange. So, fleur d'orange. Iris, cannelle. I need to translate what cannelle is. Vanille, vetiver, and amber. I feel spicy, soft, cuddly sweetness. Like if Casanova to me is relaxed but not that flirtatious, and almost like, as I said, like there's almost like skin sebum feel to Casanova. Hemingway, to me, is such a romantic, spicy scent, and it's just so universal. It's so easy to pull off. You can spray it on anyone of any age, gender, you name it, of any ethnicity, of any occupation, and it will just fit. It's a very comfortable, semi-sweet, kind of black peppery perfume. I mean, you can see how much I've used it. People just love it. Every time I show it to someone, it's like, yeah, that's amazing. I'll have that for the daytime. It's just like a crowd pleaser. And it's also very elegant. So if you consider yourself kind of more of an Hermes person rather than, I don't know, if Saint Laurent, then you might, or like if you like Penhaligon's, if you like British style of blending, Hemingway. He's a gent. And again, it doesn't really make me think of Hemingway. Maybe he was a simple, cozy, cuddle bear in his private life. I wouldn't know. I thought that he was this torn, kind of the bro of the 19th century. But he fought in the war. He was all for this like honest and brutal, tough life. That's what I remember reading about Hemingway. But 1899, the Hemingway of Histoires de Parfums is freaking cuddle bear. Like he's just cozy. He's so comfortable. Moving on from the events and characters collections to other special collections. They had in ingredients collections here and there. There was one about tuberose. I happened to have Noir Patchouli, which was a very marijuana type of patchouli that was very deep, very voluminous, and at the time that was a bit too much for me, so that found a second home. And I could not tolerate tuberose for the longest time before I actually got COVID, and I got COVID twice. So now my receptors are sufficiently dampened that I can survive tuberose scents. However, still don't have any of that from Histoires de Parfums, but I have their amber. I used up 8 ml decant first because I wanted to make sure this is amber special enough. There's like so many amber scents, just like so many rose scents. Then I thought it was unwise for me to just commit to a full-size bottle without really having any distinction in the other 50 amber scents that I have. It is special. It is a little bit herbaceous, and it is not as toasty and it's not as smoky as many other ambers are. I tend to kind of start feeling nauseous when the amber scents are either overly sweet or overly baked, overly toasted, overly smoky. It's like probably perfect example of amber that doesn't work for me, even though it's gorgeous, is Byzantine Amber by Francesca Bianchi. And ambers like that. This is a very comfortable amber, like it doesn't go too far. And we have here thyme, muscat, rose, geranium, patchouli, sandal, cedar, vetiver, amber, vanille, tonka beans, benzoin, musk. Anyway, I think I can describe it better than their marketing team, alright? This is a comfortable, well-rounded amber. As I said, no extremes. It's not too sweet, it's not too smoky, it's not too baked. With a little bit of an injection of like one of those herbs liquors. Like it's a little alcoholic and it's a little herbal. Just a smidge. And that's what made it special in my collection. I love it. It's comfortable. It's heavy enough for the nighttime, but it's not smothering. So if you really feel like you want to cozy up a little bit during daytime, you can wear it too. I have some ambers that I would probably almost never wear during the daytime. This is the one exception for sure. So I already drank up, so to speak, quite a large volume of it before I got myself a full-size bottle. So heavily recommend if you're looking for reliable, high-quality amber. Amber 114 from Histoires de Parfums, definitely solid choice. Then the other collection that is very hard to find were their opera releases, and they are kind of like theatrical releases. I happened to snatch the last bottle from the gray market, and that was Olympia Music-Hall. I think it's discontinued now, to my knowledge. And this scent is so bohemian, so dusty, and it really makes me think of an old theater, like the chairs at the old theater smell. They outdid themselves in terms of the olfactory creativeness here, because you so get it. You so get an old but luxurious music hall, and yet it's a fragrance that's pleasant to bum around in. It's like if you want to put your oldest 3 hoodies, a scarf, a beanie, fingerless gloves, the chunky jeans, plus God knows what, and just like bum around, like just feel like you don't own anybody any style points whatsoever, and yet the absence of style is the style. It's just so deliciously retro without being retro. And here's where the brand has nothing to say about it. What is going on, Histoires de Parfums? Come on, guys, pull it together. You released this. You made it. Why? Why is your official website has nothing on the Olympia? Okay, let's go to Fragrantica. Ambery woody fragrance. I find that there's something like there must be an iris involved, because like it seems so delightfully vintage and powdery. Let's see. Smoky woody with leathery and floral accents. Let's be more specific here. Mandarin, lemon, bergamot, orange. You see? And again, the same kind of opening. Very similar opening that they have in most of their classic perfumes. Then roseberries, black pepper, saffron, rose, freesia. I would say probably freesia. That gives it such a roundabout, relaxed, smooth heart. Lilac peony, woody notes, patchouli, frankincense. Storis? I'm not sure what this is. Vanilla, chocolate, licorice, white musk. Does not help me even a bit, this description. Definitely a slightly different pyramid in terms of the marketing and the targeting would be probably more helpful, because this is I don't feel a single note here. I feel something rather different. That said, it's discontinued. If you can put your hands on it or on a decant, you can do it. You can get one from me. I don't have many. Obviously, I only have one bottle. But it's very bohemian. It's also fairly quiet and very, very niche. I can't blame them for discontinuing it, but I am glad that I snatched the bottle. Another series that they have were precious metals. And I chose to try Veni. Veni is dedicated to gold. And this is the way that they try to portray the nature of the gold luster. It's almost carbonated in the way that I perceive this very bright yellowy floral with this kind of cheerful, somewhat piercing but bubbly nature. It's essentially a woody fragrance to me that is kind of like on the brighter, lighter side. I like using it. It's somewhat licorice-like, which is not my favorite note. But for those of you who like licorice and like woods, maybe this is going to be like a daytime or morning time licorice scent. I just keep it in my little group of woody fragrances when I want something a little more cheerful, a little bit more uplifting. That said, I love the bottle. I mean, there's something special about gold over gold with gold on top of gold. Highly recommend. You can find it for reasonable price. If you can't, I think there are, like, I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like it's a familiar olfactory profile. Probably you can find other woody or wood-centric scents that could kind of get you there. Another line that they had that's very hard to find was the opera line, and I only have one. I had two from that line, and now there was green, but it was like green aldehydic fragrance, and there are only two aldehydic fragrances in the world that I can wear on myself. If you are curious to know which one they are, leave a comment below. I'll make a video. Potentially, you know, it's going to be the shortest video on earth, but I'll tell you. Anyway, the one that I kept, and this is actually like a really, really big favorite, like it's a big deal for me, this fragrance. This is 1904, because this is all about iris. 1904, let me double check, but I think it's dedicated to Madame Butterfly. Yep, Puccini opera. So painfully expensive, so I'm like really sticking to my little travel here. It's powdery, irisy, and suede. To me, this is the best powdery iris / suede perfume. The only one that comes close and comparative to it, but much sweeter and gourmand, is Lipstick On by Maison Margiela Replica Exchange. This is a little more sophisticated, a little bit more special. This is my absolute favorite powdery suede iris. I could not find anything even close to it so far. So I think they still sell it, it's just cost a fortune. It's gorgeous. I always compare any irisy perfume, any suede perfume to this one. And so far, only Lipstick On came somewhat close. Nothing else. Moving on, Not a Blue Bottle. Pretty much their take on contemporary olfactory art. It's kind of post-modern surrealism, hence the name. It's a blue bottle, not a blue bottle. There is an art piece that shows a pipe that has a sign, not a pipe. It's kind of like the same concept. I had 3. I was really looking forward to see, because they're so vintagey and so conceptual and so like 1920s. That's how I feel they were where they really land with their stylistics, both olfactory and visual. Kind of Art Deco in a way. So I was like, okay, I'm curious how Histoires de Parfums is going to do contemporary. That's going to be probably super amazing. Not a big fan of the whole line. To me, I would question whether this is actually perfume or, you know, an ordinary flavoring student challenge. It's just, there's something not finished here. There's something that's not quite well-rounded. The one that I still keep trying to become friends with is Not a Blue Bottle 1.4. It is essentially a simpler, slightly more loud, slightly less sweet, but kind of like a younger sister of Musc Ravageur by Frederic Malle. I had a decant of Musc Ravageur. It's gorgeous, but it's kind of hard to wear. I mean, that musk, whoa. It's not sour, it's not piercing, it's what I call boiled musks, because they're almost this like boiled vanilla cream that you add in like pound cake. It's just so heavy, skin-like, sweet, sebum-y, oily. Ugh. Musc Ravageur is an epitome of sweet musks, just like Narciso Rodriguez is in many ways. But to me, it's a bit much. It's very hard for me to wear it as a personal perfume. This is because it's brighter, it's kind of louder, and that's what I don't like about the 1.4. It screams at you a little bit. It has these sharp edges that I feel like there needs to be some kind of adjustment or addition of a component, or maybe adjustment of a composition in terms of proportions. It's just a bit unrefined, but it is more wearable than Musc Ravageur in my opinion. If you want yourself a bottle, I am trying to part with it and find a good home for it, for the perpetuity, for somebody to love it, because it's just not my cup of tea, as all of them, unfortunately. So I've tried 3. I could not make peace with it. I could not become friends with those fragrances, so I pretty much put a cap on the blue line for myself, at least for myself. And the last line that I am obsessed about, just it's just something else, is their black line. And if I'm not mistaken, it explores kind of like forbidden pleasures or any kind of excess. Aparte, that's what it's called. From Latin, partes, apart, aside. Okay, so now we finally get something that we can consider as a guidance from the brand. Like a conversation, perfume is an expression, conveyed at times in the form of a declaration and at other times a secret. There is that which can be said aloud and clearly, and that which can only be expressed in private with the utmost discretion. Such an intention is featured in the Aparte collection, a space offering complete freedom to elicit without compromise while coveting secrets and privacy as well. Yes, I'm a big fan. They are so deliciously demonic. There's something, such a dark allure about these fragrances. I want them all. I only have 2, and I already am very close to finishing both. I have Prolixe and I have Irrevent. Irrevent is just so well made. I do have more than 5 probably kind of smoky or prune-like sweet fragrances. A lot of people think about hookah bars when it comes to like sweet prunes and smoke and spices, but Irrevent makes all of these ingredients in such a balanced, such a elegant yet sensually perverted way. Oh, so good. Irrevent is another absolute must-have for me. As I said, to me, these are smoky prunes. But if you read what the brand has to say, again, opening, bergamot, elemi, lavender, coffee. To me, this smells like coffee, but it has this kind of coffee bitterness, somewhat. Oud, styrax, patchouli, sandalwood, amber. Animalic, seductive, smoky, sweet. I am obsessed with Irrevent. I want myself as big of a bottle as I can find. Eventually I'll get it, but so far I have to satisfy myself with the most stylish travel on the planet. Which is pretty sweet. Which is pretty sweet compromise. And the second one that I have, Prolixe. I smell here grilled pineapples. I had the privilege of eating grilled pineapples when I was in Hawaii a couple of times, and there it's like their dessert. Like it's a very classic and easy way to eat something sweet. So they grill them. So it's both smoky. It's very confusing experience, but it's sour, sweet, smoky, almost steak-like pineapple. And I like it's just over so slightly less than Irrevent, but it's still very deliciously dark and seductive. What do they say about it? Ginger, cardamom, olibanum, rose, patchouli, tobacco, oud. Ginger, cardamom, cinnamon. Well, Tobacco, okay, smoky to me. Olibanum, oud, patchouli. I don't know, to me it's grilled pineapples. That's what it is to me. Love it. Will I buy myself a full-size bottle when this is gone? Can't tell yet, because like my heart is just stolen by Irrevent. But Prolixe is solid. Solid second. Definitely Matahari, but I'm stocked. Like legit stocked on Matahari, all right? Like that. I will not be running out of it anytime soon. And again, if you want any of these or the whole set, you can get it on my website. Super happy to share. Also, if you want to support my channel, what a better way to do it. Get yourself something unique, something amazing, and you can support your favorite YouTuber, because I am, right? Who else? Who else would you support than not us? Moi. Sincerely yours. Anyway, this brings us to the end of this kind of somewhat spontaneous midnight house review. Hope you enjoy this rambly video. I certainly did. Here's the truth. Here's like the naked truth for those of you who are still with me. I was dreading this review because I've been boasting about Histoires de Parfums for so long, and none of my attempts to like connect with them were successful, that I felt like they hate me for some reason. As I kept waiting for at least some kind of nod from them that is like, are you guys cool? Like, can go ahead. Like nothing. And I was like, and I didn't want to mess it up, because when you have that many fragrances, one brand, you know you're a fan, right? I didn't want to be too biased, but I also didn't want to be boring, and I felt like none of my descriptions were good enough. Like I just could not elevate with words what I felt for so many years toward these fragrances. And then I decided I just gotta go through with it. Like if it's too rambly, if it's too amateur, fine, I'll make a second one, right? It's not a big deal. It's just YouTube. When it comes to absolute favorites and the rankings, like without a shadow, like you know by now, right? Let's say it together. 1876, Matahari, poisonous, herbaceous opioid of a perfume with a powdery sweetness at its tail. The best powdery iris / suede is 1904. You can just benchmark everything by it. A wonderful gothic demonic scent that I just like wear to every type of black black party is Irrevent, number 3. And here probably there will be some competition. So these are like the absolute top, like just must-haves, like top 3. The middle loves, like love, wear all the time, would be... Oi, I am afraid of offending anyone here. These 3. Amber, 114, is just so comfortable and yet interesting. Definitely Marquis de Sade. Every once in a while I get into the mood and I just can't have enough. So it's 1740, spicy, delicious, animalic, musky, gourmand. And 1928. Every once in a while, kind of like I forget that I have it, but every one I pull it out, it's like, and you can breathe, and it lasts forever. Forever. This is great. This is bohemian. Hemingway is just loved by everyone. Casanova is very pillowy, and it's almost meditative. The only things that I'm not like super aligned with is probably the Eugénie de Montijo and the Blue Line. I haven't showed you the newest release that I have from them, which is Incense ROI. It is a monster. I keep wearing it, and since I promise you this is the year of incense, we will hear about it again. but in terms of like super short review, whew, not easy. That would not be my first grab when it comes to like, oh, I want to try an incense. But at the same time, I can see how it fits in their line. It's very conceptually thought through. It's very sophisticated blending, and it is truly a masterpiece that you can study. Is it a crowd pleaser? No. I can't say that with all honesty. But I'll keep studying it and see if maybe I'll fall in love. Now you tell me, what intrigues you about this brand? Do you have any fragrances? Have you tried anything? Was it successful? Was it not? What would you compare it with? What do you think about the packaging, the price point, just like overall flair that you get from them? Super curious to hear. You know I'm a biased judge, all right? Like I already confessed my love for what they do. Unrequited one. But it's fine. It's not. It's really not. But it's fine. I don't know. I love them from afar. But I still want to know. I haven't tried everything by them. They actually are very conservative about their release schedule, which I love. They're not releasing like 50 fragrances every year, so there is a point in buying their fragrances and studying their fragrances and collecting their fragrances, because only things that are rare can be collectibles. So I really appreciate the conservative resolve that they have in terms of their product strategy. And yet, there's quite a few that I haven't had a chance to try. So I'm really curious to see if you have any recommendations, if you would like to, share a decant. That will be even better. And with that, I'll be not so patiently waiting for your comments. Thank you so much for watching. You'll find all the useful links, all the useful information down below. Don't forget to check what's there, including getting yourself a dragon. This is the year of the dragon. Some of you didn't know? Okay, I'll explain. 30 more seconds, all right? 30 more seconds. This is the year of the dragon. Dragons amass power and money. So, you should have some representation of a dragon in your house for this year. Why not a super comfy blanket designed by me? It's right there. It's a sample that I tested before, I did go through with it. It's so good. It's bright, it's really high quality print, and it's super fluffy. I'll show you. Here we go. Look at that. It's such a fluff, and it's big enough to cover, well, definitely comfortably cover one, but maybe cover two. And guys, it has signature aerialist. So so it's something for you to remember me by. Right? Isn't that cool? It took me forever to design this one, but I think it came out well. And it's very, very, very cozy. Anyway, shameless plug anyway, but I stand by it. It's a really good product, and it's a labor of love. And I think it's a really great way to get the right energy vibes in your house. You know what I'm saying? Oh, by the way, another thing to know about the dragons, if you really love that kind of play on symbols, dragons are jealous. So, I don't know what exactly that means. I presume don't get involved with more than one dragon at a time, alright? Just be monogamous with your dragons, alright? Kisses, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.